Welcome to today's deep dive. We'll be taking a close look at Carroll Quigley's The Anglo-American Establishment, a book that really digs deep into, well, a network of really influential people in British history, a group often referred to as the Milner Group.
Yeah, Quigley's work is really an in-depth exploration of this group. They often operated behind the scenes outside of those formal institutions. And he delves into their origins, their ideology, really their impact on those key events throughout the first half of the 20th century.
It's fascinating how Quigley suggests that this group, it wasn't just a random collection of powerful people, but a deliberate and, to some extent, a secretive organization. He even links it back to an earlier group that was associated with Cecil Rhodes.
Sure. He does, yeah. Quigley argues that the Rhodes Group, well, their connections were based largely on family ties, but the Milner Group, they transitioned to a model where, well, shared ideology became like the main driving force, and that's a key distinction,
Hmm.
because it points to a very conscious effort to shape policy based on a very specific worldview.
So it was less about who you knew and more about what you believed in, more specifically about this shared vision for the British Empire. What did that vision entail exactly?
Well, they were deeply committed to the idea of the British Empire as this force for good, a force for good in the world. And it wasn't just about expanding the empire for its own sake. Figures like Alfred Milner and Lionel Curtis, who were really instrumental in shaping the group's direction, they believed in pairing that expansion, that imperial expansion, with social welfare. They saw those two things as interconnected, really essential for a strong and prosperous empire.
That's an interesting point, combining imperial ambition with a focus on social welfare. It suggests a more complex understanding of empire than simply, conquest and just taking resources. Were there any individuals within the Milner Group whose methods really highlight this behind-the-scenes influence?
Lord Esher, he exemplifies this perfectly. He was incredibly influential, advising monarchs and shaping key decisions, but he often did this from the shadows. He refused these prominent positions, really to maintain his power behind the scenes. And Quigley uses Escher to illustrate the group's preference for, well, discreet influence, as opposed to this very public, very overt authority.
Isher's approach, yeah, really highlights that strategic thinking. But it also raises the question of how they translated this behind-the-scenes influence into, concrete action. What were the mechanisms they used to really exert their power?
Well, institutions played a vital role. One notable example is All Souls College, Oxford. It really became a hub for the Milner Group, with numerous fellows going on to hold these influential positions, in government, media, other key sectors.
All Souls, yeah, they're known for their very rigorous selection process, right? They choose a small number of fellows at a young age, and these individuals, they often stay connected for life. So could you elaborate on how this structure, in Quigley's view, might have contributed to the group's effectiveness?
Well, Quigley argues that this structure, well, it created this network of individuals, a very powerful network, who were all steeped in a common ideology from a young age. They were given access to the highest levels of power and influence, and those lifelong connections, they solidified their ability to act in concert, to act together.
It's almost like a self-perpetuating elite bound by those shared beliefs and a commitment to their vision for the British Empire. However, to truly shape policy, they needed to shape public opinion as well, right? And Quigley highlights their influence on media as a key component of their strategy, particularly their control over the Times newspaper.
Exactly, yeah. The Times held significant sway among Britain's elite, and figures like Flora Shaw, who headed their colonial department, used this platform really to promote the group's agenda. She even established secret communication channels with individuals like Cecil Rhodes. She used the paper to shape public perception on those really crucial issues, like the situation in South Africa, for example.
So it wasn't just about reporting the news. It was about using their platform to really control the narrative, to influence those decision makers. Did Quigley provide any specific examples of how they used the Times to further their goals?
Yes, he points to Shaw's coverage of the Jameson Raid, which was this attempt to overthrow the Boer government in South Africa that Well, that failed, and she framed the event in a way that, well, garnered sympathy for the raiders, who were closely linked to Rhodes and the Milner Group's interests. And this coverage, it ultimately contributed to escalating those tensions that ultimately led to the Boer War. It really demonstrates their ability to manipulate public perception, to do it on this grand scale.
It's a stark reminder of how control over media can be used to shape events. It can even sway public opinion towards war. Now their approach to media wasn't limited to the Times, though, was it?
Yeah.
They also established the Round Table, a journal that was known for keeping its contributors anonymous. So, according to Quigley, what purpose did this anonymity serve?
Well, the anonymity of the Round Table, according to Quigley, it was deliberate. By obscuring the authors' identities, they really cultivated this aura of objectivity and authority. It was as though the journal itself was speaking, conveying this singular truth, and this it really furthered their agenda. By presenting their views as universally accepted wisdom rather than the opinions of just a specific group.
It was a clever tactic, wasn't it? To amplify their influence, making it seem like their worldview represented a much broader consensus than it actually did. But let's shift our focus now to how this ideology actually translated into those concrete actions, particularly when it comes to their impact on the British Empire.
Yeah, well, their influence on the development of the British Commonwealth was significant. They really grappled with the question of how to maintain unity within this vast, and diverse empire, and they debated the merits of federation versus cooperation, as those pathways to achieving that goal.
It sounds as even within the group there were nuances and disagreements, right, about the best way to manage the complexities of this global empire. So did those differing perspectives lead to any internal conflicts or maybe even shifts in their approach?
Indeed, yeah. While they shared that common belief in the importance of the British Empire, there were internal debates about the best way to ensure its longevity. Some members, like Lionel Curtis, favored a more centralized, federal model, while others, like Jan Smuts, they leaned towards a looser system, one based on cooperation and shared interests. So their approach to the empire was this dynamic process, constantly evolving in response to both those internal debates and the external challenges. Now, their involvement wasn't really theoretical, though, was it? They were directly involved in shaping policies, particularly quickly after the First World War, weren't they?
Yes, their influence, it went beyond, those discussions and those debates. They were very active in shaping that post-war world. Lionel Curtis, for instance, he was deeply involved in drafting the mandates for those former German colonies, which really shows their practical impact on international affairs.
So they were literally redrawing the map of the world, influencing the trajectory of entire nations.
Yeah.
And they were involved in some of the most complex and contentious issues of the time, including the Palestinian Mandate, weren't they?
Yes, figures like Lionel Curtis and Jan Smuts, they were instrumental in shaping the British approach to Palestine. They were involved in those commissions, like the Peel Commission, for example, which ultimately proposed the partition of Palestine. And this illustrates their direct involvement in grappling with those incredibly challenging geopolitical issues.
It's clear they weren't afraid to tackle those difficult problems head on. And let's not forget the Irish question, another incredibly complex issue within the British Empire. How did the Milner Group approach this very persistent challenge?
Well, they advocated for devolution as a potential solution. In essence, this meant granting Ireland a greater degree of self-governance, but while still maintaining its place within the British Empire. And this approach really showcases their pragmatic attempts to balance that imperial unity with the need to address those unique political realities, within different parts of the empire.
Devolution, in this context, it meant transferring specific powers, from that central British government to a more localized Irish authority. So it was an attempt to find that middle ground, addressing those Irish demands for autonomy without completely severing those ties with the empire. And this approach seems consistent with their overall goal of maintaining that imperial unity while acknowledging the need for some flexibility, some adaptation, right?
Exactly, yeah. The Irish question, it posed a significant challenge to their vision of a unified, and cohesive empire. And their advocacy for devolution, it reflects their willingness to explore those different models, and strategies in response to those specific challenges within those different parts of the empire. However, their commitment to maintaining that imperial unity, that remained a constant factor.
Now, considering their focus on the British Empire, their relationship with Germany must have been particularly complex, right? After all, in Germany, they represented this rising power on the European continent and a potential rival to British interests.
Absolutely. Their stance on Germany, it evolved significantly over time.
Yeah.
Leading up to the First World War, they held a predominantly anti-German stance, and they contributed to those harsh terms outlined in the Treaty of Versailles.
So initially, they viewed Germany as this threat to the British Empire, and they sought to contain its power and influence. But their stance towards Germany, it didn't remain static, did it?
No, it didn't. In the 1920s and 1930s, their stance shifted towards a policy of appeasement. And this shift, it was driven by a number of factors, including, a growing concern about the rise of communism and a belief that a stronger Germany, it could actually serve as this bulwark against Soviet expansion.
It's a fascinating turn of events, from advocating for punishment and containment to embracing a policy of appeasement. What specific actions did they take to pursue this new approach towards Germany?
They advocated for revising the Treaty of Versailles. They argued that its harsh terms, they were destabilizing Europe, and they were pushing Germany towards extremism. They also supported figures like Hitler in the early stages of his rise to power, believing he could be a valuable ally against that communist threat.
So the fear of communism ultimately outweighed their previous concerns about German power. This raises a number of complex questions about the ethics and long-term consequences of their decisions, and it also highlights the complex and often unpredictable nature of international relations. Where yesterday's enemy can become today's ally based on those shifting geopolitical realities.
Indeed, their evolving relationship with Germany, it really showcases that pragmatic and often morally ambiguous nature of their approach to statecraft. They were driven by this deep belief in the British Empire's essential role in world affairs, and they were willing to adapt their strategies and their alliances to achieve what they believed to be the best outcome, for the empire's long-term interests.
This shift towards appeasement, though, it proved to be a very controversial and ultimately tragic chapter in history. It raises those profound questions about the effectiveness of appeasement as a foreign policy strategy and the dangers of, underestimating the ambitions of authoritarian leaders.
Yeah, their decision to appease Hitler, it's a stark reminder that even the most well-intentioned policies can have devastating and unintended consequences. It's a historical lesson that continues to be debated and analyzed to this day. It offers valuable insights into the complexities of international relations and the challenges of navigating a world, of competing ideologies and ambitions.
Well, this brings us to the end of part one of our deep dive into the Anglo-American establishment. We've explored those origins of the Milner Group, their core beliefs, those key figures, and their influence on institutions and media. And we've also begun to examine their impact on the British Empire, including that complex and evolving relationship with Germany.
In part two, we'll delve deeper into their activities. We'll examine their involvement in economic policies, their approach to social welfare, and their lasting legacy on the world stage. We'll also consider those broader implications of their story, exploring those enduring questions it raises about power, influence, and the role of unelected individuals, in shaping the course of history. As we transition into this next phase of our analysis, it's crucial to examine how the Milner Group's vision extended beyond the realm of politics and diplomacy.
Yeah, their interests were remarkably wide-ranging, encompassing not only that, imperial expansion and foreign policy, but also economic strategies and domestic social issues. It seems they had a really comprehensive understanding of the interconnected nature of these different spheres.
Absolutely, yeah. Their involvement in economic matters was significant, particularly their efforts to strengthen the empire's economic ties.
Quigley specifically highlights their interest in imperial preference, doesn't he? That policy that aimed to boost trade within the empire, creating a more integrated economic bloc.
He does. Imperial preference was a key component of their economic vision. They believed that fostering trade within the empire would not only increase its economic prosperity, but also strengthen its political unity. In essence, they saw that economic interdependence as a tool for binding the empire, more closely together.
It's a logical extension of their broader goal. A strong and unified empire requires a solid economic foundation, but their economic focus wasn't solely directed, outwards towards the empire. They were also concerned with social welfare within Britain itself, weren't they?
Yes, indeed. They believed that a healthy and prosperous working class was fundamental to the empire's overall strength. They saw social reforms, those aimed at improving the lives of working people in Britain, as essential to bolstering the nation's economic and social fabric.
So they weren't advocating for social welfare purely out of altruism. It was part of this larger strategic vision linking domestic well-being to the empire's global power.
Precisely. They understood that a nation's internal strength was directly linked to its ability to project power and influence on the world stage.
Yep.
A contented and productive workforce at home was essential for maintaining a strong empire abroad.
This holistic approach connecting social welfare, economic policies, and those imperial ambitions, it's quite remarkable. It suggests a level of strategic thinking that extended far beyond those traditional boundaries of politics.
Yeah, their ability to connect the dots, to see the interplay between seemingly disparate issues, it's a testament to their intellectual depth and strategic foresight. It's one of the key factors that set them apart as an influential force in British history.
Their story, as meticulously documented by Quigley, it challenges us to reconsider how we view power and influence.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always about holding the highest office or commanding the largest army. Sometimes it's about understanding those subtle connections, between different spheres of influence and wielding that knowledge strategically.
That's a key insight to glean from Quigley's work. The Milner Group's impact, it stemmed not only from those, their individual positions of authority, but also from their collective ability to shape ideas, to influence public opinion, and to work behind the scenes to steer the course of events.
Yeah, it's a reminder that power can operate in those subtle and often unseen ways.
Yeah.
To truly understand the forces that shape history, we need to look beyond the obvious, to examine those networks, the ideas, and the individuals who may not always hold the most visible positions of power, but whose influence can be just as profound.
And it's essential to recognize that their story, like any historical narrative, is subject to interpretation. Quigley's work provides a valuable framework, for understanding the Milner Group, but it's crucial to acknowledge that other historians, they may offer different perspectives on their motivations and their impact.
Of course, history is rarely, black and white. It's an ongoing conversation, a continuous process of interpretation and reinterpretation as new evidence emerges and new perspectives are brought to bear on the past. Quigley's work is a significant contribution to that conversation, but it's not the final word.
Precisely, yeah. It's an invitation to delve deeper, to explore the complexities of their story, and to consider the multifaceted ways in which they shaped and were shaped by that historical context in which they operated.
And perhaps most importantly, it's a reminder to be critical thinkers, to question assumptions and to approach history with a healthy dose of skepticism and an openness to different viewpoints. The story of the Milner Group is a testament to the power of ideas, the influence of networks, and the enduring impact of individuals who dedicate themselves to a particular vision of the world.
It also underscores the importance of understanding the past to better navigate the present and the future. The lessons we learn from studying groups like the Milner Group can help us better understand the forces that shape our world, and to engage more thoughtfully in that ongoing dialogue, about power, influence, and the choices we make as individuals and as a society.
Their story, though, rooted in a specific historical context, it continues to resonate today. We
Yeah.
live in a world where power is often concentrated in the hands of a few, where networks of influence operate both openly and behind closed doors, and where the media plays a crucial role in shaping public perception and influencing policy decisions.
By examining the Milner Group's strategies, their successes and their failures, we can gain valuable insights into the dynamics of power, the challenges of leadership, and those ethical dilemmas inherent in pursuing ambitious goals, on a global scale. These are these are timeless questions that continue to confront us today as we grapple with those complexities of a rapidly changing world.
One striking aspect of the Milner Group is their adept use of media, to advance their agenda. They grasped the significance of controlling the narrative to achieve their objectives, and they were incredibly skilled at it.
Their influence over the Times, the Round Table, and other publications, it enabled them to mold public opinion, to guide those policy debates in directions that were aligned with their worldview. And this mastery of media manipulation is a crucial part of their story and holds significant relevance for us today.
Absolutely. In today's digital age, we're bombarded with information from a multitude of sources. It's more crucial than ever to be discerning consumers of information, to question sources, to consider biases, and to seek out multiple perspectives.
Indeed, yeah. Developing media literacy, the ability to critically analyze and evaluate information, is essential for navigating the complexities of the modern media landscape. The Milner Group's story serves as a potent reminder of how media can be used to shape perceptions and to influence decisions, both for good and for ill.
It's a call to be informed citizens, actively engaged in the democratic process, and vigilant in safeguarding democratic values and holding those in power accountable. We must be aware of the subtle ways in which power can be exercised, and the influence of media in shaping our understanding of the world around us.
The Milner Group's legacy is a complex one, marked by both triumphs and failures. They were instrumental in shaping the British Empire's trajectory, but their actions also contributed to some of the most turbulent chapters of the 20th century. Their story serves as a cautionary tale about the unintended consequences of well-intentioned policies, the dangers of unchecked ambition, and the importance of ethical leadership in navigating the complexities of global affairs.
Their story is a reminder that history is not a static, finished product, but an ongoing narrative, constantly being shaped and reshaped by new information and interpretations. It's about understanding the past to better navigate the present and the future.
And it's about appreciating that those decisions made by individuals and groups, often behind the scenes, can have ripple effects that extend far beyond their immediate context. Their story, it challenges us to think critically, to question assumptions, and to recognize the power of ideas and individuals to impact the world around them.
And to remember that history is not just about dates and events, but about the choices made by individuals, and the impact those choices have on the course of human affairs. The choices made by the Milner Group, driven by their vision of the British Empire, and their belief in their right to shape the world order, had profound and lasting consequences, both positive and negative.
And to recognize that those choices are often made within a web of relationships, ideologies, and power dynamics that can be both fascinating and deeply unsettling. The story of the Milner Group, as revealed by Quigley, it offers a glimpse into those hidden corridors of power where ideas are forged, alliances are made, and decisions are taken that shape the destiny of nations.
Their story
while rooted in the early 20th century, it continues to resonate today, offering valuable lessons about the nature of power, the influence of networks, the complexities of decision-making, and the enduring impact of individuals who dedicate themselves to a particular vision of the world. It's a story that challenges us to think critically, to question assumptions, and to recognize those profound ways in which the past continues to shape our present and our future. As we move into this final part of our deep dive into this world of the Anglo-American establishment, it's worth circling back to the Milner Group's shifting stance on Germany, their transition from staunch opposition to a policy of appeasement, which was driven by their anxieties about communism. It's a particularly thought-provoking aspect of Quigley's work.
Yeah, their appeasement policy, as Quigley presents it, it really illustrates those complexities of realpolitik. They were operating in this rapidly changing world, facing the rise of new ideologies and the reemergence of old rivalries, and they believed, based on the information that was available to them at the time, that appeasing Hitler was the best way to protect British interests and prevent another devastating war.
It's easy to judge their decisions in hindsight, knowing the horrors that ultimately unfolded. But as historians, we must try to understand the context in which they were operating and the factors that influenced their thinking.
Precisely, yeah. It's essential to avoid presentism, imposing our current values and understanding onto the past. You see, their decisions were made within a specific historical context, informed by their worldview, their priorities, and then the information that was available to them at the time.
Their appeasement policy, however, it remains a subject of intense debate, among historians.
Yeah.
Some argue that it was a naive and ultimately disastrous approach, that it emboldened Hitler and paved the way for the Second World War. Others, contend that it was a pragmatic, albeit flawed, attempt to avert conflict, in a volatile and unpredictable world.
Yeah, the debate surrounding appeasement really underscores the challenges of historical interpretation. There are rarely easy answers or clear-cut judgments. It's a reminder that even the most influential figures operating within those powerful networks are fallible. They make choices based on imperfect information, and with the benefit of hindsight, well, we can see where those choices went wrong.
The Milner Group story, with its with its triumphs and its tragedies, it's a testament to the complexities of statecraft and the unpredictable nature of international relations. Their decisions, which were intended to preserve the British Empire and shape the world order, ultimately contributed to its decline and the rise of new global powers.
Their story is a potent reminder that even the best laid plans can go awry.
Yeah.
That unintended consequences are often the most enduring legacy of human actions. It's a lesson that resonates throughout history, reminding us of the need for humility, for foresight, and a deep understanding of the forces that shape our world.
Quigley's work, it challenges us to look beyond the surface, to consider the individuals and the networks operating behind the scenes, shaping events in subtle yet profound ways. It raises those fundamental questions about power, about influence, and the often invisible mechanisms that drive historical change.
Mm-hmm. It prompts us to consider how much we truly know about the forces that shape our world. Who are the present day equivalents of the Milner Group? What networks and ideologies are operating behind the scenes, influencing those decisions that affect our lives? These are questions that are worth pondering as we navigate those complexities of the 21st century.
One of the most unsettling aspects of Quigley's work is this idea that such influential networks can operate beyond public scrutiny, shaping events without accountability to the people they impact. It raises concerns about the nature of democracy itself, the balance of power and the role of citizens in shaping their own destiny.
Yeah, the Milner Group story, it raises those profound questions about the transparency of power and the ability of citizens to hold those in power accountable. It challenges us to be to be informed, to be engaged and vigilant, and safeguarding those democratic values, ensuring that that power is exercised ethically and transparently.
It's a call to action. It's
Yeah.
urging us to look beyond the headlines,
Yeah.
to question the narratives that are presented to us, and to seek a deeper understanding of the forces shaping our world. We must be active participants in the democratic process, holding our leaders accountable and ensuring that that power serves the interests of the people, not just the privileged few.
The Milner Group's legacy, with its blend of ambition, of influence, and unintended consequences, it's a reminder that history is not a static finished product. It's a dynamic, ongoing process shaped by the choices we make, the networks we form, and the ideas we embrace.
And as we conclude our deep dive into this world of the Anglo-American establishment, we're left with a renewed appreciation for the complexities of history, the power of ideas, and the enduring influence of networks. We're also left with this sense of responsibility to learn from the past, to engage thoughtfully with the present, and to work towards a future where power is exercised ethically, transparently, and in service of the common good.
Because ultimately, history is not just a story we read. It's a story we're all writing together. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.